I'm Dr. Erica Bove, and welcome to the Love and Science podcast. I'm your host, and also the founder of Love and Science, Thriving Through Infertility. I'm so excited you're here today. With over a decade of experience helping thousands of women just like you, I empower professional women to build their families with confidence and compassion. Let's dive in. Welcome back, and we are so excited to have you today. You are joining us for our second annual birthday conversation. Dr. Jessie Mahoney and I are actually birthday twins, which means that we were born on July 30th in different years. And last year we had such a fun conversation about our birthdays. Sort of the idea came really organically, and I loved our conversation. I've listened to it since, and we decided that it would be really fun to do this again a year later to reflect on the previous year, to share wisdom, to inspire, and to reflect a little more. Dr. Jessie, I'm so excited to be here with you.
I am so excited to be here with you. I love that I have a big twin. I actually have quite a few, but I love connecting with one every year. And I love reflecting. So this should be fun.
Yeah. Well, when I was considering doing the first time I went on a retreat with you, I was like, well, obviously we're birthday twins. It's meant to be. Yeah. So here we are. And, you can listen to our episode if you're listening from a year ago where we introduced ourselves, but I also wanted to just give some context for those of you who might not know us. This will be aired on each of our podcasts, and so it's kind of a fun way to do it. So I'm Dr. Erica Bove. I'm a double board certified OBGYN and reproductive endocrinologist. I currently practice at the University of Vermont about 1 week a month, and I run my fertility coaching practice for female physicians and bridge them to successful outcomes 3 out of the 4 of the other weeks of the year. I am based in Albany, New York, but I do go back and forth between New York and Vermont at the present time. I'm a native Vermonter. And yeah, I'm excited. I am, spoiler alert, I am turning 43 on July 30th this year. Yes. Yes. Yeah. How about you, Jessie?
So I am Jessie Mahoney, and I'm a board certified pediatrician. And now I'm like a triple certified coach. We'll talk about that. And I am coming to this call from Nicasio, California, which is in West Marin, where Erica and I last saw each other in person about a year ago. And I run now a business full-time called Pause and Presence, which is virtual coaching and retreats. And I give a lot of talks, keynote talks, and work with a lot of institutions really around physician wellness, which is kind of a garbage bag term. So I would say it's really figuring out how to live your best life inside or outside of medicine. For some people, it's still inside, and for other people, it's outside. And sometimes it's in your current job, and sometimes it's pivoting to a different job. And I do a lot of coaching on transitions and pivots, as I have pivoted, and I left my clinical job 6.5 years ago, where I had worked full-time as a pediatrician and physician leader for Kaiser for 22 years. And I have been doing this full-time since, but I also love to coach on relationships and parenting and burnout and enjoying medicine. And I've been doing a lot of leadership coaching this year as well. And I help people, with some business coaching. I like to do it all because I like variety. And I also think it all overlaps. And as you know, it does overlap. Whether you're coaching on fertility, you're also coaching on all the other things because they are all, I really believe, inseparable.
Yeah, I always say for me in my work, fertility is just the access point. It's going to affect your marriage. It's going to affect your work, your boundaries, so it's fascinating. I love how influenced I have been by you and your work, and how when I went to your first retreat, one of my goals was to eat more slowly and to eat more mindfully. And that is something that that's so cool that you can go on a retreat for a week and then come back and change a habit that really influences how you experience your life. And that's just one example of we all talk about these experiences. Oh, I just need a week away. I need to go to the mountains. I need to go to the beach. I need to do the drink on a cruise ship or whatever it is and forget it all. But then at the end of the day, you're left with your life. And so how can we have coaching be this vehicle for living more deeply, living more mindfully, having better relationships, liking ourselves better as humans, that self-compassion? I think it's so amazing.
You've actually made me think, like, what is the access point? Like, why do people come work with me? And I think it's the approach, right? It's the mindfulness, self-compassion, possibility, like inspiration, hope approach that weaves really all those things together. Because I think when we really just dive like only into coaching, and I know that you integrate the physiologic piece of it as well, especially in fertility, right? That you get the same transformation. And even going on vacation, you don't get the same transformation, right? It's intentional and it's integrated and really interwoven. And as we talk about our years, I think that's going to come up as a theme for both of us probably as well.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Yeah. So we were starting to think about questions that would be fun to talk about in our like birthday episode 2.0 in 2026. I'd really love to know, Jessie, like what you're proud of in this last year.
I love that question. And well, I can't remember if we talked about this in our previous episode, but I spent a couple years ago practicing being proud because I realized that I wasn't necessarily proud. Not that I was doing things I wasn't proud of, but that I had actually never paused to be proud and notice like what I was proud of and what I had done. And so I actually now kind of like to think about this question. It's not just what I did, but what I'm also proud of. And you had also mentioned that you wanted to talk about this. So I will say I am proud that I finally did my TED Talk, which was something I really wanted to do and made it happen. And I think we'll talk a bit about it. But I will say that it was much harder, not in the sort of stretching point of view, but just the like dynamics of actually making it happen and actually getting there and actually doing the practice and actually all of the actuallys. And, you know, it's also much more expensive than one would imagine, but it was super important to me to share the what would love to question. And so I was like, when the opportunity came up, I was like, yes, I'm just going to do it. It was not at all at the best time. And I will say that it happened right 3 days after on the heels of something else I'm proud of, which doesn't really have anything to do with me, but I'm still proud of it, that I have twin granddaughters and they were born on Wednesday and my TED Talk was on Saturday. And I was like, maybe I won't give it. I'll go help. And I was like, no, like I'm going to do this first and they will be here hopefully for a long life. And I can see them at 5 days old rather than newborns. And it was, so while I'm not, I part of me says I shouldn't be proud of that. I did birth their dad, I guess, so I can be proud of that. But for me also, one of the things I'm really proud of is how I navigated that birth story, I'm going to call it. And it was not your typical birth story and one that most pediatricians would have a lot of challenges with, which I did. But I feel like I really navigated it in alignment, though I worked on it and was really thoughtful about what I wanted my relationships to be with all the people and who I wanted to be and what I would be proud of later. And so I'm really proud of how I handled it. And I think a few other things from the year, which are less sort of things that I did, but I think I have spent a lot of time this year speaking up and being more in alignment and just, it's a little bit of like not caring what other people say, but a little bit of a twist differently. Like it's really like, if it matters to me, I'm just going to do it. And even if it's uncomfortable or even if it makes waves or ripples, and that's been hard because I don't like making waves and ripples. And sometimes I do it by going away and doing my own thing. But this time I was really willing to do that. I was asked to do this really big project for a big healthcare system. And they had an idea of how they wanted it to be. And I just knew that like for the long-term outcome and the long-term benefit of the physicians, that it shouldn't be that way.
Sure.
And so I was willing to not do it if they weren't going to do it. And I don't want to say my way, but in a way that that felt aligned and that wasn't sort of, these are the things we want, but these are the things that are going to make the biggest difference and have the biggest long-term impact, if that makes sense. And so I really actually, I won't say dug my heels in because it was actually the opposite, that I just stood up tall and said, well, you know, I don't recommend doing that. And if I'm going to do this, it has to be something I'm proud of. And I just sort of had this idea that like, to me, it felt risky, right? Because this was something that part of me just said, oh, just do it. It's a great opportunity. Like, and I knew that a year in, I would be mad at myself. And so far it turned out fine. Like they were like, oh, those are good points. I think a lot of it has to do with when you're not in the defensive space, but you're in the proud, like this matters to me space. And I will say that sometimes it's speaking up and then sometimes it's not saying anything. Like in my family, it was letting other people be them and recognizing that though I really wanted to say things, that it was better to just let other people do their thing and think about what I wanted in the long term, if that makes sense. I mean, I think it's pretty cool.
Well, I think that, coming back to the birth story experience, like you kind of need to put your ego aside and your need to be right.
Yes.
Because, especially when we're so trained in medicine to be like, there's a right way and there's a wrong way. And like, these things are acceptable and these things aren't. And we have to zoom out and think about, okay, maybe that's not true. Maybe the relationships are where it's at here. Maybe, we always talk in the medical world about autonomy and patient autonomy. What does that mean when it's your family member? Family member autonomy, and like, so I think that's really interesting because I watched you navigate that journey really well. I think that, the other thing that comes up for me is you're like, well, I'm proud of my grandkids, but I'm not directly responsible. Like I have seen you embrace that role as the Lita, right? You call yourself Lita, like the grandmother role over the last 2 years, 2-ish years. And you've been so present to them in a way that you like held space, you asked them what they needed, you showed up, you had fun, you got on the floor and played with your grandson, like all those different things. And like every single deposit into that relationship bank, now that they have their, new additions and everything. I mean, it's all one continuous story. It's not just like, oh my gosh, this surprise happened and here we are. Like, I mean, the timing is interesting because the universe kind of gave you an opportunity to say, okay, like, what do I do now? Do I cancel the TED Talk? Do I focus on this role? But I think because you have shown up with so much love, again, the topic of your TEDx talk is like, what would love do? Like you were able to say, what would love do? And actually
give the TED Talk first.
I would give the TED Talk first.
Right?
Give the TED Talk first and show up with love for yourself and for your people. I mean, that to me, if you think about like, I'm proud of you for that. Like I'm proud of how you lived in that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, you brought up something that I hadn't thought of. I'm super proud of my Lita role. And we haven't actually talked about it, but I have totally up-leveled in my Lita role in a way that's really authentic and aligned. And I've been doing some things that like the way that I grew up, one would never do it this way. And it has brought me so much joy. And I'm about to do it again next week, which is my 3-year-old grandson who has these 2 little twins who get a lot of attention and because they need it. They're 7 months. And so I actually have started flying down to San Diego, picking him up and flying back to my house and bringing him with me. And having him stay with me for a few days and then returning him, which to me feels like totally extravagant and ridiculous. And yet it's very clear to me that the parents of twins couldn't possibly drop him off or pick him up. And he clearly can't fly alone. And from this sort of aligned place, while it's fun to be there. There are 3 children. There's lots of adults. There's all kinds of chaos. I have to stay in a hotel. And this isn't on them. It's just like what happens when you have a busy family life and they have their jobs and their setup. And this has been so much fun. And so, and literally my grandson now looks up at the sky and he's like, is Lita on that plane coming to get me? I mean, 3 times. And I'm like, my son said, well, he's going to get used to this. And I was like, well, first of all, fine. If you plan ahead, it's not that expensive to go to San Diego and back because it turns out it's cheaper. Well, it's about the same as a hotel room for a night or 2, but I get to be in my space with just him. We don't have to go out to eat. I don't have to rent a car. I don't have to, use a car. It's like just this really beautiful, aligned, connecting thing. And for me, that was kind of a step out because it just seemed like a crazy thing to do the first time I did it. And then I was like, we should do this all the time. What are we thinking?
Oh, that's so special. I'm so glad.
Really
and
special.
takes like thinking outside the box and
Yeah.
giving yourself permission to do things differently.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
And I see the twins briefly on either end, so I've seen them, right? But they, they don't necessarily need me in the same way. They're breastfeeding and they're, doing all that stuff. And like, this just feels like something I could do. And I know it won't last forever also. So it's sort of like, and if it does, that's also okay. But I'm pretty sure it won't. So I'm really proud of sort of the creativity. And maybe that's something, just being creative and authentic, that I've really leaned into. And I will say, this was my 56th year. And I think the idea too, that we can just keep growing and changing, is pretty powerful. And then the last thing I think I would bring up here is that I'm proud of is blends together, but like letting go, but also asking for help, and like being okay with both, like getting go of things that I'm ready to let go of, and asking for help with things that I kind of want to do or want to make happen, or for whatever reason, like they haven't happened. And to not say like, I need to be mean to myself and just get to it, but to get help and figure out like, well, do I really want to make them happen? And if not, let it go. And if I do, then figure out what kind of help I need to do that.
Oh, that's interesting. I think the really interesting part for me is that discernment of like what goes in what bucket.
Yes. Yeah. Because sometimes it's like it hasn't happened and you need help, but because you're frustrated, you're going to let it go. Yeah. And instead of saying like, no, my future self will really wish I had done this thing. Kind of like the TED Talk, honestly, right? Like my future self will really wish I had done it. Even though part of me was like, yeah, I should just let this go. Like it just is too much time, effort, money, coordination. You have to apply and do all this stuff. And then, timing again, it was actually right at the end of my retreat season. So I literally practiced my TED Talk with people who came to the retreats. They got the preview because I was like, I gotta, this is, do you want to hear it? It was actually really fun. But again, I think just recognizing what goes in what bucket. So tell me what you're proud of.
Hello, my loves. I am so excited to share this news with you. If you are a female physician navigating the fertility journey and you want a structured, evidence-based plan, I have created a free resource for you. It's called the Physician Fertility Roadmap. I have created a guide to help you optimize your chances of pregnancy and a successful outcome over the next 6 to 12 months. Check out the link in the show notes. Love you. Bye.
Let's see. Oh my gosh. I mean, every year I feel like there's so much change. I keep being like, okay, like when is the change going to stop? And I mean, I don't mind it. It does feel like other people, when I look, seem to have much more stability and less change. Like my sister and I always talk a lot about that, like how quote unquote stable her life is and how like sort of my life is always changing, which is exciting. I mean, I will say, I think this has been like the chrysalis year and then the butterfly. Like we've talked about that analogy a lot before. Yeah. And for so long, it was so uncomfortable, but I knew things were happening under the surface. But there was a moment when I was like, okay, like now this is it. And I think that what happened was I really did embrace self-kindness for the first time. And, one of my mentors, Dr. Una, says like, be, do, have. And so like, sometimes we have to start with like the identity. Every single day I say, I'm kind to myself. And there was a moment, or, in the fall where I was saying this to myself every day, but then looking at my actions of like going to work at my employed position. And all of a sudden I just realized like, I know we do things for practical reasons, but like, Erica, you are not being kind to yourself, and not in a judgmental way, but in a, like a very objective, like, I know you want to maintain this job for so many reasons. However, like you really are not. If you are to say you are kind to yourself every single day, the next right thing is to not remain in this employed position, which, that was a really hard. I cried as I talked to my work partners about it because I love them like sisters. I needed to resign from my fellowship director position, which I know is like very prestigious, and, I love education. And at the same time, I just knew there was such misalignment that it was becoming exhausting. And I was being so much kinder to other people than I was to myself. And so I did. December 30th, I sent an email and sent in my resignation, and took 4 months to obviously see the effects of that because we have a 4-month notice. But what that did was that actually opened up space in my life to be present with my mother, who almost passed away from, medical issues in the spring. I did not anticipate that at all, but because I had created that transition, I was able to be at her bedside for most of that time, which was just so incredible, which also links to other things I'm proud of. But like sometimes we have to move for things to move. And then, I'd also made the comment in passing, like, I don't think I'm ever going to date anybody if I'm living out of a suitcase, and I had said to you last year, like, and not that I was like actively trying to find somebody, but I knew that at some point I would want to find a partner. And that I'm like, okay, do I do it in Burlington? I'm there half the time. When I don't have, my children, do I do it in Albany? Like all these different logistics. But something was saying to me, like, when you're in one place for 3 weeks out of a month, like you're going to feel much better in your body and everything. So I unexpectedly started dating somebody who sat next to me at an orchestra concert in March, and he's still very early, very much enjoying my time with him. And that was another unexpected gift, but I also think came out of the self-kindness to be like, I'm not a machine. I can't continue not being kind to myself. I have to practice what I preach. I have to be kinder. And then from that opened up these other really amazing parts of life.
I wrote down and starred this question. What would be kind to yourself this year?
Great question. Yes.
Yeah.
So let's think about that. I mean, I think continuing to listen to my body and my intuition. We talked about that last year.
Yeah.
Wear the bracelets that you gave me every, I have one for trust and one for intuition and now one for love. Really listening. And like this intuition thing is so strange. Like my kids have been trying to get me to get a dog, and I, my older one's 13, my younger one's 11. Like I've recognized that there's not too much time I have left with them in my home, all these things. I had a contract in my hand for a dog that seemed to make sense on paper. And my gut was like, don't do it. Not the right thing, not the right time. And I was like, okay, this makes no sense, but like, okay, I'm listening, like something is off about this. And then the next week my mom got super sick, and I thought to myself, like, how would I have managed a new dog, a puppy really, and my mom's illness? And so I think a lot of kindness is to create the pauses and the spaces to listen. And then once we listen, we get data, then it's our choice to decide what we do with that. We might choose to remain in a situation that is suboptimal for different reasons. We might choose to listen to our hearts and take a risk and do things. But I think that for me, it's that, what would kindness do? Kindness would continue to listen, continue to rest. That's another thing I'm super proud of from this last year, was getting the coaching I needed, where our coach just looked at me and she's like, I know you're here for XYZ reason, but we're not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole until you slow down and you rest. And again, she said this with kindness. She said this with love. And she actually had me start blocking out time on my schedule where I could not look at my to-do list, where I had to like she actually said, Erica, you need to suck, is what she said. You need to be of no good to no other people. And I think she had to say it in such dramatic language. And I was like, okay, I am going to be not useful to anybody. I had to start like 2 hours, like once every 2 weeks. Like it was very, but even that amount was very scary. I'm like, what's going to come up if I'm not just like busy all the time and productive? And then from that rest has grown me believing that I deserve the things that other people have in their lives, like, white space, time of non-productivity, and hey, dating. I mean, you can't really date from a space of like, I'm going to work you in this hour-long block that I have, like that's not going to work. So just embracing that, like, it's safe to rest. It's safe not to be productive all the time. You deserve aspects of life that are fun and playful and non-productive. That's been a real realization. So continuing to listen to that, understanding I have responsibilities, and how can I welcome that rest, welcome that energy in, I think is a very kind thing for myself.
Yeah, I want to comment on that one actually, because before we started recording, I was telling you that I'm resting right now. And maybe being not being non-productive, but less productive is my agenda for a little bit. And that it actually doesn't feel good, because I like to be productive, and like that's my highest productive energy. So, but it is acting like that chrysalis where everything melts down, and I know it's essential. But because it's unfamiliar, it doesn't feel good. And so I actually fully believe it's safe to do that. I deserve it. And I don't like it, which is a whole other level, because it's unfamiliar. And yet it's a little bit like saying, I want to live my whole life in systole and I'm just going to skip the diastole part, which is necessary, right?
Yeah.
And even someone like me who knows all that, it doesn't mean that you're going to like it or it will be fun necessarily. Like, I think it takes practice. It's a little bit like the connecting with what you're proud of. That was really hard for me to do. Now it's fun. So I'm guessing that the more I do this, the more fun it will be.
Oh yeah, totally. And I'm like, look at me. I went a whole 2 days without looking at my to-do list, or like, look
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah.
And I think that we can embrace that. And again, sometimes it's super not comfortable either. Like, I'm not saying I've like arrived or whatever, but it's a muscle that I'm much better at exercising now than I was a year ago. And I didn't realize how much that was going to be the key to me just feeling so much more human and so much more
Yeah.
like in my own body and not in just in my head and my to-do list all the time.
Wow.
So
Great.
that's been amazing. I think the coach that I just referred to was like, we're gonna make you rest,
Yeah.
forced rest. She's a financial coach, and that was one aspect of life that I really felt like I'd been avoiding, probably related to wounds in my divorce and
Yeah.
otherwise. And so I addressed that kind of head on this year and really did work with her, which we know, like coaching again, it's the access point.
Yeah.
And that was really powerful to really intentionally spend time every single week getting the money house in order, having actual financial goals, which I really hadn't had up until then. I was like, I was making smart decisions, but I wasn't really like heading in a direction. And I feel like that has been very empowering for me in many levels to address that part of life finally, in my 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Wow.
And then I also wrote down as thinking about this, like really welcoming in the space for my female friendships. I have a core group of friends in Burlington, and it's like a beautiful group. And then I have isolated friends from different aspects of my life, like a best friend from college and a best friend from, medical school. And then another, like I have like these isolated friendships. And I thought, my goodness, we go 4, 5, 6 months without even talking to each other. And like, why? Just because we live in different places doesn't mean we can't carve it out. And so I now put it on my calendar if I haven't touched base with a certain friend in 2 weeks. And what that also translates into is time, like actually looking at the schedule ahead of time and prioritizing. I have these times in my life when I'm not on call, and the parenting schedule is such that I have okay, so then let's say, what weekends do you have in the next 6 months? And consequently, I have done some amazing things with friends, my girlfriends, that I don't think I would have done if I hadn't recognized that this part of my life is vital to my vitality, into my living the best life that I can. So that's been a really wonderful prioritization that is an upgrade from last year. If you're listening right now and finding yourself nodding along, this is usually the moment people realize that they want support that's specific to them. In addition to this podcast, I offer one-on-one fertility consults where we look at your full picture with both strategy and compassion. You can learn more in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the conversation.
Yeah. And I have actually been doing a lot of work on that too. I love that the birthday twins work on the same things. Even though we're like different generations, we're still working on the same thing. Not generations, decades.
Yeah.
But this idea of recognizing, I think that it has to be an intentional approach. And that's sort of the alignment of just saying, like, this is important and I'm going to take time to do it. Even if it's uncomfortable, like I'm in a new space, like the new friend part is uncomfortable, and also making time and being intentional about connecting with old friends. And I think that we think somehow these things are just going to happen. And they did just happen way back in our training, but they don't continue to just happen. Especially, when you, in your case, you get divorced, you move, you do these things. Like there are friends that go with the marriage or friends that go with living in a different state. There are friends that go with different parts of your life. And so those relationships become very intentional, or have to if you want to keep them. I also love that they can look very different. Like, I think we used to think that like your friend has to live down the street and you see them all the time. And my realization these days is that those are like, I can see a friend once a year. And if we still have that deep connection. I actually saw a very good friend on Monday that I hadn't seen since I moved. And she's gone through tremendous things since I moved, which is one of the reasons. But like, it was as if we had seen each other yesterday. And then we were very intentional and we set up walking dates for the next, like once a month for the next few months. They're on the calendar. We're going to make them happen because it felt so good. But again, like those kinds of friends, there's no judgment. It's like these things came up and here we are for each other. And how it was, but we were both like, okay, when's our next get together? Like, let's plan it. And, I put it on my calendar. I blocked my schedule. I was like, no, this is going to happen. And we went 5 months in advance. I mean, I know that they probably won't all happen because something will come up, but that was also on purpose. And I think so many of us feel sad that we don't have intentional connections, and yet having them, even if they're just text connections, that can be really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think it's still okay to be choosy. Like, I'm such an introvert. I'm not gonna like have 20 friends on, but there was one person I met recently. It was at actually a track meet, and we reconnected, like similar social situation, divorce, etc. And like, she's such a bright light. And like, then we started sharing book recommendations, and there was like this regularity. Every week we get to see each other. And then we're like, okay, well, the track season's over. We're not going to stop this now. We're going to keep this going. And she just bought a house, and now I have this new relationship that she's super excited about for me. And so, I think that when you have that resonance, you have that energy, and like you said, like you experience a bit of that good thing, and you're like, oh, I want more of that. It kind of like, in coaching school, we learn that we do things to seek pleasure, and like it's very pleasureful to spend time with our female friends who get us and don't judge us and lift us up.
And I love your comment that more is not better, right? It's the quality, not the quantity. And for some of us, that might be 2 good friends or 3 good friends. For some people, they need all this stuff. And none there's better or worse. It's just knowing who you are and kind of finding the sweet spot, which might change. Like as your kids are busy doing other things, there's more. And at other times, there's less. And there isn't a right or wrong way again.
Yeah, it's like listening. But then I think one thing like a frame shift that's been important for me around this is to say, this is not optional. This is like part of my whole health system. Yeah. Like, this is not like this extra thing. Maybe I'll dabble in my female friendships from time to time. It's like, no. Like, that's not the right framework that works for me to make this integrated into the fabric of who I am. And so, yeah, I do have lots of dates on the calendar with people and weekends bookmarked for various things, especially when we're talking about call schedules and things like that. You just have to do that. But I think that's been an upgrade. And I'm so glad you're experiencing that too. Yeah.
So we talked about sharing this idea of what we know now that we didn't know last year. Do you have any thoughts on that that's different than what you're proud of? To me, it's that question that gets at a little bit different things.
Yes. I mean, I think that surrender as a deep experience. I think that when I went to this physician coaching summit in November of last year in Arizona, and I did this like trust fall, and it was scary. Like I actually and I don't like heights, Jessie. Like I had a harness on. I didn't know anybody. I like climbed to the top of this pole that had like these, I don't know, things on them, and you balance, and then all of a sudden you jump, and then you try to catch this thing. Nobody gets it, and then you truly like fall into space.
Yeah.
So I, at that point, said I released all negative attachments, like as I was falling, and I truly believed it. And that was a very powerful, I would even say, like spiritual experience for me to be like, okay, I know I have things that are holding me back from my fullest life. It was around the time I made the decision to resign from my employed position and et cetera. And that was really amazing because I've returned to that moment several times, and like on a cellular level, that was surrender. And then, I will say when my mom got really sick in April, and that was really scary, and I truly did not believe she was going to make it through. She was so sick. And, my family, we all, my very nuclear family, we leaned on each other. But that was also a tremendous exercise in surrender to say, like, okay, like, she may not make it through. What do we say? What don't we say? How do we honor her wishes? That was very important to me, that like how she was cared for, reflected the decision that she wanted to make. And so that time was very much a time of surrender in terms of like truly not having control over so many things and letting it go. So I think that, what do I know today that I didn't know a year ago? I think I understand surrender, not necessarily cognitively, but like experientially, in terms of like what it really does mean to turn something over. And I
You
think this, go ahead.
you just said at the cellular level, which I think is is the distinction, right? It's not just in our heads. We know like, oh, I want to let go of that. But when you actually let go of it, you also let go of it physically.
Yeah, that's so true. I think that dating, I mean, you know, I intentionally was single for the last 2 years, was not expecting to date, and like opening that door, that's been really interesting for me to welcome in that energy, welcome in getting to know another human in that way, inviting him into my life. Again, it's early. We'll see. I love spending time with him, but I think most importantly, like I love who I am in the context of this relationship, and like I can just tell like what a different version of myself I am, in ways that make me feel proud. But also, what do I know today? I know that it is safe to open up that door because I have that deep self-trust that is going to continue to guide me. And again, it can be vulnerable, it can be kind of scary sometimes, and it's okay because I have that self-trust. So that's new
You,
knowledge to me.
you surrender to the not being in control of the relationship thing, right? It's
Yeah.
sort of like just surrendering to whatever happens. Part of relationships, right, is surrendering, which none of us like to do.
None of us like to do it, and then surrendering to the whole job. Like, okay, if I'm not employed, then, what does that mean? But then also like knowing that I need to let go of that to be able to grow the coaching practice, which is my passion, and all those things. So I do think that is the theme, really, is like in all the different fronts, is that surrender to say, okay, I may not know what's on the other side. I can make my plans, but I can also know what isn't serving me, and to let that go and see what else, what comes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah. What about you, Jessie? What do you know
Right?
today that
Yeah.
you didn't know a
Yeah.
year ago? Understanding that we have like 5 more weeks until our actual birthdays, but still. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I have time to learn more things. I'm focusing on achievement. Um, I think the idea that two things come to mind. One is, and it kind of relates to surrender, but not really. It's really like that I can be patient and I can take my time.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes, the patience actually reaps more than you would by pushing through things. Um, and that like oftentimes when you're not focusing on an outcome, which I think is so much of what we do in medicine, and even just in that high achieving woman perspective, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And the example of the TED Talk is actually a great one, because I was parking it. Like I wasn't sure I was going to do it. I wasn't sure I had time. I felt bad because I kept saying I was going to do it, and then like the timing wasn't working, et cetera, et cetera. And then all of a sudden it lands in your lap. And I think sometimes when you're patient and you just stop like trying to make things happen, they actually do happen. And that of course goes right back into the trust. But I think that for me, that is just remembering that patience and the pausing, whether it's just sort of pausing an energetic pause, you then create space and these things land. Like when you decided not to date is when the date showed up, right? And so I think this idea that we can be patient and we don't have to be focused on making something happen. I feel that so often the messaging, whether it's in medicine or in business and in life, it's like, no, you have to make it happen. It's just get on it. And I actually find that most of the really great things that have happened happen when I stop doing that, and when I'm satisfied with where I am, or when I'm resting, or when I'm just not in that achievement focused energy. It does come back to trusting yourself, trusting the universe. It doesn't come in the self-doubt, like pushing outcome focused energy. And then I think the other one for me relates a bit to your self-kindness, where you brought up that you were proud of it. But mine was more of a lesson that I really had to take care of my physical self above all. And not even from a place of not kindness. Sometimes it feels not kind to do it. I actually had a stress fracture in my heel and I couldn't walk for like 3 months. I could hobble around my house, but I couldn't go outside, do the things I wanted to do. And it was during my 3 months where I was supposed to get to hike and do all the things. And I really just had to like take care of myself, physical self first. And that also involved a lot of similar discomfort to what I'm feeling now when I'm like not busy again. And I think it's this idea that like one of the things, and it's funny because I kind of teach this, is like taking care of your energetic self and being kind to yourself. But if you don't do that, like the other stuff doesn't happen and you just get out of alignment. And so
Yep.
whether I wanted to learn that lesson or not, I got some messages there. And I'm now again, for my summer, kind of really focusing on my own physical health piece. And I think that's probably something that I also recognize is like, for me, I have busier seasons and less busy seasons. So I don't have to focus on it every day. I don't have to be amazing about doing the things every day. I mean, I don't want to let it all just go, but that there are times where you're like, yes, this is a season of really regrouping and resetting and seeing what needs refilling and what needs attention. And it doesn't have to be all the time, but that if you lose that piece, I always say, like, if the physical piece isn't taken care of, a lot of the mindset work doesn't happen. Like, they go hand in hand.
They do. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I don't know if I shared with you that I fractured my spine in February. Did I tell you that?
Oh, yeah.
So we
Yeah.
really are living parallel lives.
Yeah.
I slipped on ice and had to transfer process. Anyway, the whole point is that I similarly have had to rest and did not necessarily want that, as going to go skiing with friends and then had to say, okay, let's stay in the lodge instead. Okay, first world problems, but like still, so I hear you on that. And I think that I love what you said about just the pace of grace and like how different seasons call for different energies and paces. And I think we forget that in medicine, which is like sprint mode all the time and achievement oriented all the time. But when we can actually do that, I mean, the paradox is then we have more energy for the times that are more intensive, and then this sort of rhythm of resting. But it's something we definitely have to learn because I was not taught that, and I think I'm learning. I have learned a lot over the last year, and I continue to learn that it is actually good for me to recover.
Well, and actually, nature does that, right?
Oh, it does.
Like,
Absolutely.
But we don't learn from that. And the heart does that. We don't learn from that. And so it's like, I mean, sometimes it takes a lot of years for us to do it. I think the other piece around that sort of patience and taking your time is there are a lot of projects that I had that were like almost finished. And when I let go of just being like, oh, you should have finished this before, I'll give my Martha Beck certification as an example. Like I left the very last day and to turn in all the stuff. And I did, but then I was like, well, maybe I just won't do it. Like I can be the one who just doesn't care. And I was like, actually, no, I did all this work. I should turn it in. That's actually kind. And so it was just sort of dropping the story about why I left it to the last minute. I actually had a lot of good reasons. I did a lot of other things. Like it wasn't at the top of the priority list until the last day. And I was able to do it all and get it turned in and pass and get my certificate. But originally I was like, why would you have done this? Like, what are you thinking? And I was like, just drop that story and just answer the questions and trust yourself. And there was a little bit of funny part to it because I think, I just had kind of forgotten that like I'm actually a highly efficient, highly educated, trained person who can whip out a final exam in a couple hours. Even if someone else thought it would take a long time, like I could do this. But my brain just had all those old stories of that. And so it was great learning for me that like it doesn't matter. It's not that I learned what I wanted to learn. And I actually learned a lot from doing it in that moment. Right. Like just as opposed to sort of spending time reviewing it and perfecting it, which I did not do at all. And it turned out it was more than adequate. Like way more than adequate. And I'm doing that again. I did a yin yoga certification, and part of it was teaching a class, which I already taught the class, but part of the homework is like explaining your sequencing and yada, yada. That is not how I teach yoga. I teach it intuitively, but I had done the training, so I just taught the class. So I did have to sit down afterwards and write down like what I taught, but I can't actually explain like why I did it, except that it's intuitive. But I decided I'm just going to turn that in. I bet it's fine. Like I don't have to get an A+. And honestly, that is how I'm going to teach it in the future. And I did the course. I learned it. Like so there's this sort of part of this is like B+ work, but it's not just that. It's like just sort of letting go of that judgment and just being fine with how it turns out.
That's amazing. I mean, I see you like saying, okay, this is in alignment with how I do things, both with the
Yep.
example you gave earlier about the institution and then this. And like, so first of all, it's like, well, it has to be aligned with me. So like these
Yep.
external rules exist, but like as long as I'm ish in it, like it's gonna
Yes.
be it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
And then also the awareness, the metacognition of, oh, I actually have stories. Like how many of us have done things for
Yes.
years just being mired in the stories? But they're like, oh, number one, I have stories, and number two, I can drop the stories. Like, I think that is a super cool
Yeah.
ninja skill. So
Yeah. That's been fun.
yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a fun year. And I honestly, because we're several weeks out from our next year, this podcast recording has gotten me to think about it. Like, I'm not yet,
Yeah,
but
same.
it's in my mind that, like, oh, I should be thoughtful about it. And, I'm always very thoughtful about the beginning of the calendar year, but I feel like it's also a nice way to say, like, for me, it's like in my 57th year, what will I wish I had done?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I guess one thing that comes up right to mind, so I'll throw it out there, but this needs more thought. This particular thing doesn't need more thought, but all the other things need more thought, which is this idea of having fun. And I have shared a yoga class about this recently and written about it, but it really has hit me passionately. So I want to share it with you. And I think as like a birthday wish, it's a beautiful thing. There was a woman in my Martha Bach coaching group who had stage 4 cancer and actually died during our training and didn't finish it. But her daughter reached out to us at some point afterwards, and she had made this incredible montage about her mother, who, by the way, was lifelong learning until her very last days, if she was in a training at the end of her life. And her mom said a couple days before she died that we had so much fun. And the daughter, who was, in her mid-20s, was like, yeah, we had so much fun. And she put this in her montage about her mom. And when I heard this, it just hit me in this way of like, wow, well, when I have 2 days left to live, that is what I want to be able to say. And that is what I want my children and grandchildren to say about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I had a pause and I was like, would they say that now? I won't say no. I'll just say I'm not sure. I don't want there to be like any doubt in anybody's mind that we had so much fun. And then I don't want to be like, oh yeah, she worked really hard. Even like she made a difference in the world. Well, I want to make a difference in the world, but I want to have a lot of fun doing it. Like, and I want to be known as somebody who people think of as like, wow, that's fun. And I will say, I think that the work I do now, I'm having so much fun. We're having fun recording this podcast, right? So it's not like that you're out, reveling all day, because I think making a difference can be fun, but the energy around it
Yeah.
feels just like something that I definitely I want to kind of integrate in a way that it's not just a thought or a fleeting thought. I have started saying it all the time. I constantly now with my grandson say, we're having so much fun. And he's like, yes, we are. But it's also because we are. And so I'm partly just reminding myself that like, oh, yes, I am having fun, or I'm having fun recording podcasts, or I have fun teaching yoga. Like to me, that's fun and creativity. So it's one, owning it. But I think if we don't call it out, other people may or may not see that about us. And there's a power in sharing that as a passion and an intention for the world. Like I was not raised in a way that you should focus on fun and pleasure. Like that was indulgent. And so to me, putting that out there in the world and allowing people to do it, I think that's where we get people's best ideas and best, highest, wisest, most creative, curious selves.
Totally. And as you know, I'm divorced, and like part of it was like I just lived this straight and narrow and like academic medicine and blah, blah, blah. And then there was a New Year, it was New Year's, and I decided to kind of get a bunch of like, decorations and like, those blow things that make noise. And I really went all out. And I remember it was a couple years ago, and I had this thought, which I now code as mantras: I bring the fun. Like I used to think that the fun was for other people. And I am fun and I bring the fun. And now that is, again, every day I might feel a little differently about this, depending on what's going on. But like, I fully do believe that like I bring the fun, and it's wonderful. So I offer that to you as we both embrace this new identity. And you do. I mean, like I will say, and I will text you later about all the ways that I I experience your fun energy and have for
I love
years.
it. Yes,
Like even like I can see your print, like the print of your dress right now. Like that is a fun, colorful
it
print,
is.
and
It's
it
really
brings
fun.
me joy
Yeah,
to see that.
yeah. You're right. Actually, I do embrace fun. And you know what's interesting about what you saying that is also the calling it out and the noticing, because I think so often we already have what we think we want. And it would be really interesting, like to ask my children what they think. I think they would be plus minus. Like I am fun, but not always. And I'm not sure I always want to be fun, but I do want them to be able to say it. Right. So to me, it's also just a reminder of like noticing how you show up that way, being aware. And I've had this new thought in the last few days, and this also feels like a very relevant birthday wish, is that letting other people see you and share. So like you sharing how you find things that I do fun is so powerful.
Yeah.
And I have gotten, it's been so fun. I have gotten presents in the mail in the last week and a half of art from people who've come on retreats that they painted of things here that they like framed and sent to me, poppies and sweet peas and things that I had around that they had painted or in their little notebooks, I think, and then like given them to me with a thank you and like really being seen. And to me, that tells me that it was fun. It wasn't just serious. It wasn't just meaningful. Like they're all colorful flowers, which clearly is a theme. But I just love that like sense of fun. And I think we can allow other people to share what they see, because I have discovered recently that other people see things in you that you want to be there, or maybe you're trying to grow, but you don't really feel confident in it. And then when someone sends it back to you with their comments and feedback, you're like, oh, wow, actually, maybe people do see me this way. Maybe the work is less. Maybe the work is owning it.
Yeah, they help us connect the dots. And then just like gratitude, they say savor the gratitude. Maybe we can savor that feedback and like use it as a mirror to see how we already are that way in many senses.
I think that's such a beautiful idea of what one might want for their birthday. I was like asking the people you love to share with you like what they think is fun about you or what they love about you or what, not what you can improve, by the way. I don't want to hear that.
No feedback.
No feedback sandwich. But to me, it would be that kind of being seen. And I think from the people that you love and who care about you, how powerful is that? Yeah. That could be a really cool exercise.
I think I'm going to ask for that this year. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Wow. Look at all these amazing ideas that come out of an end day episode.
I love it. Well, thank you, Jessie. It's always so wonderful to spend time with you. I can't wait for all of our listeners to have a front seat to our conversation and reflect on their birthdays as well.
Thank you. This was such a delight, and perhaps we'll be here a year from now recording our third annual episode, and who knows what it will be about. Each time it's been really fun. And I do want to encourage everyone listening to go back to the last week of July and both of our podcasts, either one, and take a listen to last year's episode, because I also think like an annual episode is always so much more interesting in contrast to what we said. And you listened to it before this. I did not, kind of on purpose, because I then feel like it's going to color my thoughts. But I think in just reflecting on the two, you can also see from the outside, like how much things can change. And that can be inspiring for your own journey. Totally. Amazing. Well, and I will put the link in my show notes, and I think you can do the same so people can reference it quickly. Okay. Yes, absolutely. And I will put Erica's links will be in my show notes, and my links will be in her show notes. And we both thank you all so much for listening, and come join us for something, because we have a lot of fun.
Love it.
And we will reconnect with all of you next year, if not before.
Yes. Amazing. Until the next time, my loves. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Love and Science podcast. I'm so glad you joined us today. If you found this conversation valuable, if you could please rate, review, and share this podcast with your trusted people, it would mean so much to me. If you want more tools to help you navigate the fertility journey, please book a discovery call with me today. The link is in the show notes. Please do not let infertility have the final word. I'm here to take the burden from you,
so that you can achieve your goal of building your family. In gratitude, this is Dr. Erica Bove. I'm rooting for you always.